Welcome to Around the Table. I am your host, Vision Coach Alicia, and I am so excited this evening, as I am every Friday evening, to come on in and sit with you. So let's get started tonight by you grabbing someone, a friend, letting them know we're on the air so that they could join us tonight because I am excited as always when it's Friday. This is a place for authors, coaches, speakers, and entrepreneurs. And every Friday night, I have a guest. What are you drinking tonight around the table? Well, tonight I'm drinking water. Just plain out water tonight, no tea, no anything special, because I want to sit with you for the next 35 minutes and have you enjoy this show. So, welcome again. I am your crystal clear vision coach, and every Friday night, I aim to bring you an exciting show. And guess what? Tonight is absolutely no different. And so, without any further delay tonight, I am going to bring up my guest. My guest tonight is, and here she comes. Hi, Altovise. How
Hey,
you doing?
I am doing phenomenal. How are you?
Great. You look phenomenal. Ugh, I love what you have on. I love your background. Come on, you are the voice coach, the unmuted coach, and I'm so excited that you chose tonight to become real unmuted. So, Altravis, you and I met probably about 7 or 8 months ago in the Virgin Islands,
Yes.
and we got to know each other a bit. We spoke on the same platform. We had a great time, getting to know each other. And so, guess what? Tonight, you are my first guest that is going actually on my new network with me. So thank you for being my guest tonight as we join the CTR network, and you've become my first guest. So we're gonna celebrate tonight. Thank you. So listen, I don't do bios and all of that stuff on this show, but what I do is allow you to become comfortable with me and with the show and our conversation. So let's start the conversation by you telling the people in your own words who you are.
So there are so many different ways to be able to describe who I am. I am a mother, I'm an introvert, I'm an influencer, I'm a speaker and author. I was a podcaster. There's so many different things, right? But at the core of who I am is I am a woman of God who decided that, you know what, my yes was going to be yes when it came to me helping other women become unmuted. And whatever that looked like is how I stepped forward in this industry. So it's been, doing interviews. It's been writing books. Currently have 23 books published. It's been going
Hold up. You have how many books?
23 books published. Yes.
Wow. Okay, keep going.
It's been me stepping in the line of fire as an intercessor and being able to stand in the gap with women that have been through homelessness, abuse, domestic violence, loss, grief, so many different
Yes.
things, and being able to help them take what it is that they've gone through and become unmuted and sharing their story. Now, it's interesting because for some women that meant publishing a book. For some women that meant becoming a speaker. For some women that meant just starting a business, or it meant just being able to comfortably tell their story. But for whatever it was, I was put in a position to be able to be that catalyst for them to be able to become unmuted, and not just become unmuted, do it in a way where when they look back, it's like, oh, now I see why I went through that. It was so I could help the next person out.
Wow. So let's just dial back a little bit. As I was reading some things about you, as I wanted to get to know you a little bit better, I realized that you came from a background of retail and management. And in doing those things, now where you are, I see that you're able to implement some of those skills, the people skills. Although you say you're an introvert, I'm trying to figure it out. But If you say you are, I'm going to try to go along with you. I don't know, but I'm going to believe you for who you are as the woman of God that you are. But if you say you're an introvert, okay, we'll go with it being an introvert. But in retail, being an introvert could be very difficult. So
Very.
give me a little bit of your background of your retail and management background before we go further into this conversation tonight.
So I've always been in some type of management role. I've always been in some type of retail role. I've worked with different companies from KB Toys to Foot Locker and Payless and so many different atmospheres, when it comes to being in retail. One of the most
Mhm.
valuable things as an introvert in retail is that I'm the person that listens. So where everybody else was just trying to throw, this is the next deal and try this and try that, I was the one who said, okay, so, tell me a little bit about what's going on. And then I go off of that. As an introvert, we do more listening than we do speaking because we're very precise about what it is that we say. Not just that, listen, I don't always like the big crowds. I like to be able to kind of be by myself. So that
Okay.
one-on-one conversation really
Mhm.
takes it to a whole nother level. But because of who I am as an intercessor as well, I would be the one where people would come and open up to me. I mean, I could be in any atmosphere and
Yes.
people would come and open up and tell me, I mean, their whole life story. And I would be like, oh my goodness, I knew that for me, it was, oh, I need to pray for that person. Oh, I need to give them an encouraging word. And I'll give an example, working uh at Payless, and a young lady came in and she just kind of looked like she was just like spacing out. And, I just came over, asked her, how she's doing. And she turned to me and she said, I just watched my best friend get abused by her boyfriend. And I just dropped
Mm.
her off at the hospital. And I don't know how to feel right now. Like, I don't know what the next step is. I don't know if she's going to tell them that it was him. I don't know. Like, and again, this is somebody who doesn't know me
No,
at all,
you.
but because of the presence that I have, she felt comfortable in being able to just say, okay, I need somebody to talk to. Let me go ahead and talk to you. And I was able to give her some positive reinforcement. But those were the type of scenarios that I would come in contact with, even while working in management, even while working in retail. And I'm also one of those type of people that I measure 9 times so I can cut once,
Hmm.
which definitely is an amazing skill to have in management because
Yeah.
you're going just off of what looks good or what you saw somebody else do, but you're actually creating the process and
Yeah.
recreating the process.
Creating it. Yeah. And as an intercessor really listens so that they can hear God, because an intercessor prays through something. An intercessor doesn't is not like a prayer warrior who just they're gonna come hit it and they're gone. But an intercessor is gonna come and pray through that person through. So you're very sensitive in the spiritual realm when it comes to that. And that is why I could accept you being an introvert at that point. So that's awesome. Listen, Altravis, let's go here. The shirt that you're wearing, it says unmuted. And we know you are a life coach and you also are the voice. I love that piece about you. You are the voice. And being a life coach without a voice would not have worked for you. So God had to restore your voice. And I know He had to restore your voice. So let's talk about you being an overcomer.
So it's interesting because I'm still in the process of overcoming. I
Okay.
always tell people that it is a process. It's never like when you get to that end result, it's when you hear God say, well done, my good and faithful servant. Like there's
Uh-huh.
always going to be something to work on. So being the overcomer has become a process of being transparent about where I am, not being so fixated and idolizing where I'm trying to go, and being able to be clear in hearing God's voice through it all.
Come
So
on.
for me, I moved back in back a minute in 2009. I found out that my girls had been molested,
Okay.
and it sent us into a whirlwind of trying to figure things out. I ended up moving from Philadelphia to Maryland,
Mm-hmm.
and it
Is
was
that where you are now in Maryland?
well, I'm in Delaware now. Just
You're
moved
in
to
Delaware.
Delaware.
Okay.
Only been in Delaware for about a year now.
Okay.
That's been a process.
Mhm. Yeah, I can imagine. I
um,
just came back from the Virgin Islands
yeah,
last month, so I understand. Go ahead. Go ahead.
it's been a process,
Yes.
but um, moved from everyone I knew because I had to. It wasn't like it wasn't a move where I was like, oh yeah, let's plan to move here. It was literally the day that I was supposed to move into someone else's home. They called me and told me to find somewhere else to go. And so I literally had nowhere to go. And
Mm.
my aunt, who I was with for, it was 4th of July weekend. I was with her for the weekend, me and the kids. And we drove to Philadelphia, packed up whatever we could fit inside of her truck, and moved to Maryland. And I think I made it back one more time to kind of pick up a few more things, but that was it. So we left it all.
Wow.
And it was difficult because at the time I was, you know how they say, a wounded warrior,
Yes.
still trying to fight, you still trying to
Mhm.
battle, you still
Mhm.
try, but you got wounds, and so you're in pain as well. I had never told anyone up to that point that I had been molested as a child. And
Okay.
so when I was going through that and trying to help my daughters go through and help them to heal, I hadn't healed myself. I hadn't gone through the process that I was trying to take them through. And so that was a struggle because you're trying to be mom, you're trying to be protector, provider, you're trying to be friend, to help them through this process. You're also trying to be enforcer, you're trying to be all of these things, teacher. Um, and we wear all of these extra hats because of trauma.
Yes.
we
Yes.
we have all these, so that all these battle wounds and things that we're trying to cover up, we have all these bandages on ourselves, and we're walking wounded. And so for many years that was who I was walking wounded. I was showing up with the smile on, with the face, with some makeup or some heels, some cute outfit, or if I could afford a cute outfit, because there was those times where I just barely could afford food. But you show up.
Yes.
And part of the lesson that I was able to learn through that is becoming unmuted does not mean I have to show up with a mask on.
Come on. Go there for a little bit.
And that's what most people think when
Mhm.
they think becoming unmuted and telling people about ourselves mean I have to be loud. I have to be arrogant. I have to be prideful. No, no, no. Being unmuted means I am comfortable in telling you that I'm not okay. I'm comfortable in telling you that I'm not perfect. I'm comfortable in telling you that I failed at something. I'm
Mm.
comfortable in telling you, not because I want to stay there, but because I know that this may be where I am right now, but it doesn't have to be where I am tomorrow.
Come on. Listen, you are listening to Around the Table. Over here we have, hi Marisa, thank you for joining us. Allison, we see you over there. Thank you for Takima. And there you are, Dr. Joe. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, ladies, for coming in and joining us tonight as we sit around the table. My guest this evening is Coach Altovise Pelzer. And listen, we're going to go into this place. As you see, tag there, it says the voice manager. So tell them what the voice manager is really all about.
So the voice manager is getting down and being your battle buddy, right? Being that person that I'm looking out for you, and we're in this together because I need you to understand that you can get through this. You
Come
can
on.
take what you have, you can take
Hmm.
the resources, and you can move forward. The big difference between me and a lot of other coaches was that a lot of other coaches wanted you to learn 9,000 different things, or they wanted you to take this course and this course and learn this process and this process and pay for this and pay for that. And my first thing whenever I work with somebody is, no, let's start with what you already have.
Mm.
It's great to get all the new fancy stuff. It's great, but sometimes we get overwhelmed with shiny object syndrome. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Get overwhelmed with all of the cute and pretty stuff and making things nice and having a logo and having a website, and all of that is cute. But what is it that you're actually bringing to the table when you show up? That's
Come
just like
on.
people would go and get coaching to become a speaker so that way they can just, because they want to do a keynote, they want to be able to be a keynote speaker. Okay, but can you just be able to properly tell your story
Mm.
and not tell it from a place where you're wounded and you're bitter, but can you tell it from a place of being better?
Come on. Yes,
And so
yes,
that's so valuable, because when I'm speaking from a place of bitterness, I'm not helping anybody, including myself,
yes,
because I'm keeping myself on that merry-go-round of, this is who I am. I'm the victim instead of being the victor.
You know, Altravis, one of my main things in coaching is I teach healing from emotional enemies through a book. And my t shirt says, be bigger, be better, not bitter. Because that's the one thing that I found with coaching women, that the forgiveness process, if they don't get into that place, they remain bitter in who they are, and then they shrink. They're no longer who they are called to be. They are so that's why I say you got to become bigger at who God has called you to be. So the process, so when you unmute someone that you're coaching, is it because they're normally like shut down and not wanting to be an extrovert or whoever they may think that they are? So from your, because I, when I read that, I said, wow, the unmuted coach, that was so awesome to me, because as I teach healing from emotional enemies, some of the people that they're so closed down, so shut down, that I have to go through this whole process. And what I teach is similar to you. I teach them, listen, you got to move, acknowledge your past so you can move to the present, so that we can take care of your future. And that's how I teach it. So it's so similar what you're saying tonight. I'm getting excited. So as you teach that process and go through that process, the one thing that you said to me is that it's a process, that it does not mean that you have overcame. And so with me, I use the word, it's a journey. It's a journey. You're going to go through a journey, because sometimes there are things that come to try to keep you in that place, like you have to learn that they're triggers
Yep.
and how to deal with them. So let's go to this place.
So it's interesting that you would say that, because what I did was I did an anthology, and so
Okay.
brought together um, a few different people.
One of your 23 books.
Right.
Okay.
I brought together a few different people to tell their story of what it meant for them to be unmuted. And
Okay.
one of them was a good girlfriend of mine who, at a young age, she was the witness to her mother's murder.
Wow. Okay.
And it was so interesting because it was something that, for a long time, she if she tried to talk about it, she would cry, or she would get emotional, she would get choked up. And so this was like her official moment of becoming unmuted with that story and sharing
Yeah. Yeah.
why, it took her, some time before she actually spoke up about what she saw. And that led to them finding the evidence, and them finding her mother, and them finding, them, arresting the person. And all of that was from her speaking up, but it took her some time to speak up, and why it took her some time to speak up. And that's the process of becoming unmuted.
On a process. Wow. Do you remember Maya Angelou's story when she just stopped speaking for
Yep.
5 years because of trauma. Trauma can put you in a place where you lose your voice. And sometimes people will not regain their voices if they don't have people like you who care, who are concerned, and they come to you. But you said something earlier. We've got to learn to meet people where they are. That with some things you don't need all the bells and whistles to do it. You do it gradually, and you make it become what it is supposed to become. Because I like doing one-on-ones, but they wear me out. Oof. So, you know, in groups, you're a little bit more careful because some people are not as open in groups and don't reveal the whole thing. So you have to use your skill as that coach, that healing coach, because that's what I am in that sense. I'm a vision healing coach because I found out when I started to help people with their businesses, Altravis, that some of them could not get their businesses going and off the ground because they needed to heal.
Yep.
They could not function in their businesses because they had so much baggage. So my coach said, you need to combine both what you do. And once I started doing that, I'm starting to see a different set of results that's coming now to women healing from emotional enemies who have taken and mine came through, my book came through a very emotional marriage of 9 years where, oh my gosh, by the time I was into my seventh year, I just started writing notes because I think I was living in I don't know, but I started writing notes. And out of those notes for 3 years that I wrote until my divorce was how this book was birthed. And I made up in my mind, I am going to help other women because as I stopped, people were coming and asking me questions about things. And I said, wait a minute, I have had that experience. I've dealt with that. And that's when I knew that I had some value as a healing coach. So as an a muted coach, I'm going to ask you this because you said it, but I really want to understand. Um, you said you lived the molestation. Your daughters also are now in this place of molestation. So, had you told them before or during because of this? Did you tell them what happened to you so you could become unmuted with your situation to help them? Let's talk about
So
that.
that was such a significant situation. My oldest daughter and I were having a conversation about trust. And it was in that conversation that I kind of just blurted it out that I had been molested as well. And in the moment, we just both cried. Because one of the things we forget is that sometimes the process is just being able to verbally speak whatever it is that you've been through. We
Yeah,
we have this really bad habit of believing that if I don't talk about it, then it doesn't exist.
correct.
If I ignore it, then it never happened. And that's not the case. If you don't talk about it, that's you burying it, and that now becomes a seed. And so now
Mm.
that trauma has become a seed, and it affects all different parts of your life because it now has roots in how you see yourself and how you speak and how you think and how you move and how your body has certain aches and pains because of the trauma that you've been through. It goes through your whole system and it goes with you. And while you may think that you're okay, I'm good, you're not. And everybody around you can see it in certain increments. They can see that something's not right. They may not know what it is, but they can see it.
See it. Yes.
Like I remember somebody saying to me, man, I, you know, I'm glad to see you see you like this. I'm glad to see you like this now. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like
Mm.
I didn't change anything. And understanding that as you go through that process, you do change. You are going to get better. You're going to listen, you're going to be okay and have joy and have peace. And people look at me now and I'm like, listen, I'll go and giggle and laugh and enjoy myself and I'll dance and do all types of things. But I enjoy my peace as well,
Yeah.
because I understand what it was to live in a world where I didn't have peace, where I felt like
Wow.
everything was always chaotic, everything was always, oh, woe is me. I could never get ahead. I was always behind the eight ball. And so being able to go through my own journey and being transparent about it. Again, I'm not perfect. I've made all types of mistakes. I listen to
Yes.
God and be like, God, you really want to use me out of all of these people in the world?
Right.
You think I'm one of the ones that you want to use? You sure about that?
Yeah.
Because
Wow. Well,
God, I wouldn't use me.
that's how we are about ourselves. It's a good thing he don't feel about us the way we feel about ourselves.
Facts, a hundred
Before
percent.
we go to this next part. Hi, Dr. Nikki. Thank you for coming in tonight. John Mache, I see you there. Thank you so very much. My fearless leader and my coach, Dr. Nikki, is on the line tonight. Karen, I see you. I see you. Judy, I see you. Thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. You can go out and share this broadcast. Let's talk about you and your life as a speaker and an entrepreneur. Let's talk about a little bit about that side of you.
So that's the funny part. I did not realize that speaking in the way that I speak was not something that people could naturally do. And the most interesting way that I found out was I had a speaking event where I was speaking in New Jersey for an event. At the time when I was told that I was going to do it, I was supposed to have 45 minutes to an hour to speak. I'm great. I already have, what I'm going to be talking about. Great. Well, other people went before me and they went over their time, like drastically went over their time, which is something that I teach speakers. Like that,
Yes,
you always pay attention to your timing, but
yes, that's
there's
a
tools
no-no.
and tips for you to do that. But
Yes,
that part. So by the time it was the person before me, they pulled me to the side and was like, "Hey, we kind of, ran low on time. You have 15 minutes." So this 45 minute to an hour long speech
that you prepared for
that I'll prepare for
now
10 minutes
has shrunk.
before, 10 minutes before is now shrunk to 15 minutes. Well, I got up and I did it in 9, because that I can do that. That's how my mind works. And when it comes to speaking, you can give me any length of time and I will
Yes,
be able to go up and be able to present, and people will be like, "Oh my goodness, oh, that was amazing." But that I didn't realize that that wasn't something everybody could do.
and do.
And then, but it was at that event that people were like, "Did she just do that in 9 minutes? What
Yes,
happened?" And people were like, "No, you had that's a gift. Like,
yeah.
wait a minute, that is a
Come
gift."
on. Mm-hmm.
And so I said, okay, well, let me go and teach other women, especially women that have gone through trauma, that have gone through abuse and things like that. Let me go and teach other women these little tips and tools. So not only are they not getting up and being the wounded warrior when they're trying to, speak to somebody or minister to someone or just tell their story, but also so they can get in and get out. They can get the information out there that's necessary and needed, and then go ahead to the next thing. Um, the process has been critiqued over time. And
Mm-hmm.
so I love it. I can be on stage and I always, there, Dr. Shamika, who we were connected to, she loves having me host virtually and in person, because she's just like, I know you're just going to kill it. Whenever you get up, you're going to
Yes,
even when we did the event in Maryland a few years ago, and the electricity went out, and we still went forward. And
I remember that.
like, you have to understand that when this is your craft, that this is the hill that you stand on, then you're going to do what it is necessary for you to be able to excel in it. And then when it comes to the coaching piece, I always tell this story because this is the one that touches my heart so much. Is when I first wrote my book in 2016, the very first one, It's Okay to Cry. um I, I started doing things on live streaming and social media. And one of my aunts was like, I'm so proud of you. oh my goodness, I think I want to write a book. And I was like, great, because we could do this and we're gonna do this. And she was like, wait, wait, wait. She said, I said I wanted to write a book. I didn't say I wanted to write a book today. Wait a minute. Now, mind you, from that point until now, she's actually published 5 books.
Wow.
But
Okay.
here's the part that really stood out. In 2020, everybody went through what? The pandemic.
Yes.
Everybody in the pandemic has on a mask, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I was living in Maryland, but I was volunteering, handing out food in Delaware during the pandemic, with an amazing organization that's here in Delaware. Absolutely love them. But I'm handing out food, and a woman walks up to me and says, "Thank you." Okay, it's the pandemic. It's stranger danger. I'm an introvert. What are we doing right now?
Yeah.
So she says, "You don't know me, but your aunt helped me to get out of a domestic violent relationship. And
Wow.
I know that she was able to do it because you helped her to be able to tell her story."
Story in her book. Correct? Wow, that is so awesome, Altravis. Listening, you are joining us tonight on Around the Table, and my guest is the amazing Altravis. And she is a coach, and what she does is absolutely phenomenal. She's the voice manager. She helps you to become unmuted. So as we're listening to this story, let me see if there's any questions, because comments, yes, it becomes rooted deep within you when you speak. Yes. We've got to understand that some of us do things very naturally, while other people have to struggle to get it done. And so for you to write 23 books, that's a natural thing that you do. I'm on my 7th book, and it's not the most natural thing for me to do. I do in spurs. As a matter of fact, Healing from Emotional Enemies, the one that I do the course and teaching with, was my very, very first book. And then have done some other books, but it's not the most easiest thing for me to do. I like to write, but I have to know that it's time for me to write that book. And I've done the anthologies as well, because I love to share women stories. And the first one was actually Superb Woman, and we're getting ready to do Superb Woman 2.0. Yes, we're getting ready to do that. I'm hoping that I can get it done by my 70th birthday in September. So that's the goal for that book. I was talking about it today with someone. So listening to you that you wrote 23 books, it's encouraged me to continue going, because sometimes I get lazy with that part of the journey, because there are other parts sometimes that's more interesting to me. Like I like doing the show. I like speaking on stages. I like, but if I'm going to do that, I need to have a book to sell while I am speaking on stage or doing these things. That's what my coach would say. I remember, oh my goodness, I was going somewhere to speak. Um, and I wasn't taking my books. And I happened to call her and say, well, I'm getting ready. I'm running out of this. And she said, and are you taking your books? And I was like, no. And she, let me tell you. And I took those books with me, and it was the best thing that I ever done. I was just rushing, wasn't even thinking, because I was in the moment of going to speak, not concentrating on going to compliment it. Hi, Pastor Hoban, I see you. Hi, Allison Curry. Thank you. She said she loves. And there is my other Dr. Connie Stewart. Thank you so much for coming in today. I see my cousin Jacqueline is in, Joycelyn is in here. Thank you, ladies, so much for sharing this time with us this evening as I speak with Coach Altravis. Now, I'm going to ask you this. Where are you now with the next step? Because as we said, it is a process.
Mhm.
Where are the girls now with what they've had to deal with, and how do you feel about the progress that you've made with them? Because people don't understand, being abused is really it's very traumatic. And so many, people say to you, what happens in this house stays in this house. So many people walk around being wounded and not saying or expressing their real feelings of the things that they experience. So I'm glad that you found out what was going on with your girls, and I'm glad that you dealt with it. And I'm glad that, well, I'm not glad that you had the experience of going through it, but I am happy that you knew what to do because you experienced it yourself. So just give us an update of what's going on now.
So they're doing really well. I think there's always pieces of it where you have to go back to that point and kind of say, okay, God, what other things need to be cut away? What other things need to be uprooted? And you don't kind of understand that until you get to a point where, oh, ow, that hurts. Like, you ever be doing something and you get like, you feel like something's sore and you're like, what did I do to my leg? What did I do to my arm? Why is it sore there? And it wasn't until you tried to move it or use it that you realized it was sore, because you didn't even realize that it was a wound there. Sometimes going through the healing process when it comes to trauma, that's what it feels like. It's
Hmm.
You don't know until something hits you in that area and you realize that's tender.
Yes.
That hurts. And you have to be in a place where you can verbalize that it hurts and be able to say, okay, now I need to figure out what I need to do to heal that area. Which is going to be different. It's going to be difficult for some, it'll be easier for others. We also have to understand that there's going to be times where, just like somebody who had something that was broken, and then when it healed, it didn't heal properly. There's times where things have to be rebroken in order for it to be refit, placed back into
That
position,
is good.
in order for it to be completely healed. So
Yes.
when we go through this process of overcoming our traumas and overcoming abuse, especially when it comes to domestic violence, when it comes to molestation and rape, it may not be the same for each person, because everybody's going to have different, pressure points, and your proximity to the situation is also going to be really different. So it depends on who it was that did the abuse, or that molested you, or it depends on how it was handled, and who you felt like you could trust and who you felt like you couldn't trust. And so, all of those things are definitely pieces of the puzzle that comes together over time. And so
Hmm.
I love that they've been able to kind of go through and find those different pieces and start putting those pieces together on their own. And again, I'm not perfect. So there's points where I may have been the point where the trauma came from. And, I had to understand that, because we kind of think that we're, the perfect mom, the perfect wife, the perfect friend, the perfect this, the perfect
Yes.
that. We have that in our head that we're just the bee's knees. And the reality is no, you're human. You're
Yeah.
not perfect.
Hmm.
And sometimes you are the problem. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you are. So we have to come to grips with that. And I love that they're in a place where um, they're older now, so I can have different conversations with them and
Yes.
have that dialogue. I think that's going to be the biggest piece, especially uh, if you have that space to be able to have those type of dialogues and those conversations with people, then that's a valuable part of the healing process. So I've seen them, they graduate college, I mean, move to a different state, do all types,
Yes.
watching them do all types of things. My youngest daughter, she was just out of the country last year in Germany. I'm like, I've seen them do phenomenal things.
No
Okay.
things. That's awesome. You know, Eltravis, I'm sitting here, and about a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago, I encountered a client with a very unique situation where in her entire family there was nothing but incest, just everywhere. And it prompted me to start to look into, so I'm now enrolled in a what's called a healing practitioner course that is an 11-month course, because I want to be able to speak to my clients on a whole new level. Because right now I tell them I'm not a therapist. I'm not trying to be a therapist. I don't want to be a therapist. But if I am more in tune with the healing process and can really ask the right questions, because when I started coaching this person and she started, I wanted to tell her, I don't want to coach you, because I was kind of like, I don't want to step over the line between a coach and a therapist. So I suggested to her, unless you sign up with a therapist, I cannot continue to coach you in this manner. So we have to learn our strengths, our weaknesses, our qualifications of who we are, even in this coaching business. Because a life coach, a vision coach, or whatever, we've got to learn when to pass the baton on to someone else, because we could do more damage than good if we think we are, we can solve every issue. So once you became unmuted, now your journey is to help others become unmuted. I'm going to put your information on the screen for your website, as well as where people could email you if they would like. So I just want you to tell people where they can find your a few names of your books. The one that you just called was very, very interesting. Unmuted, and then you said a other book that was very interested. The
Yes,
one.
very first one was It's Okay to Cry. And it's the process that I went through uh, going after finding out that my girls had been molested, and that whole transitional process. Um,
Mhm.
and understanding the power in our tears, understanding what it means to cry out. And I literally go through the Bible and give you the instances of what it means to cry and what it means to cry out to God. Because it's one thing to cry and to, cry because you want sympathy, cry because you want somebody to support you, cry because in the moment it's just too much for you to handle. But not just cry, but understand that there's power in your tears and that God understands. So when we cry, it's not just to be able to have man pay attention to us and those around us, but it's crying out to God and understanding that God hears you and understands what you're going through. That was one of the most valuable pieces of it. And I love what you said as well, because I've been the coach that has told people, you need therapy. Like, let's go get some coaching. Coaching is cool, but let's get
Yes.
counseling. And what happened was in 2015, 2016, there was a big shift between people wanting to go to counseling versus coaching, and coaching
Coaching.
became more popular, so they just felt like they would just go to coaching. And because a lot of coaches really played into that emotional,
There
spiritual,
you go.
um,
Yes.
piece,
Yes.
it made them feel comfortable there, when in all actuality they needed to be talking to a therapist. I
A
think
counselor.
now, within
Yes.
the last year or two, we've kind of shifted back to people going back to therapy.
Hmm.
And saw in that time span, there were therapists who shut their practices down and became a coach, a life coach.
Come
And
on.
it was like, no, we need you as a therapist, because there are people that need
And,
you.
and the difference is, even with me, I have to understand when I am speaking as a pastor, as an apostle, to when I am speaking on a stage, as we have to understand the roles of being an entrepreneur. Yeah, we are in ministry and in business, but we've got to understand we are women in ministry
Yes.
that do business. You know, at least that's for me. Maybe for some people, they're in business doing ministry, but I am in ministry doing business. So I have to put first what comes first in my life and be able to separate both of them. So this was really, really good this evening. I am so glad that you said yes to this conversation. Let's see. Hey, Pastor Kaylee, I see you there. Okay, and Coach Ed, thank you. Ooh, this is a long-term friend. Hi, Kurt, all the way in the Virgin Islands. I see you here tonight. Ursula, I see you as well. Thank you all so much for joining us at Around the Table tonight with my very, very special guest. She is the voice manager, Coach Altovise Pelzer. So let's get ready to wrap this up. So now, as we are speaking, you and I are getting ready to speak again at an event, but you will be in person this time. I'll be virtual this time, but we get to share it with each other again. So, what is next for you? What are you doing right now? What is next for you in
So
your?
next is the next book project. That's what I'm working on. Uh, that's going to be an interesting one because it's about change. And woo, man, that's one of them things that we fight. We fight change. We know change happens every single day, all day, with every part of our lives, but we fight it so much. So God has given me some key things to put into a book and a workbook for, people that are going through a season of change, what
Mhm.
that looks like and how to, kind of manage it and, manage that whole process. The other thing is getting back into speaking. A few years ago, God told me to shut everything down and to kind of pull back. And in that time pulling back, I spent more time fasting, praying. I spent more time studying the word. I spent more time in his presence. And man, stepping in more to, the intercessory piece and um, being able to be a teacher, because that's one of the things that, as far as part as the fivefold ministry, we always hear people talking about being, the prophet and being a
Yeah.
pastor, and you don't hear many people tell you that they are a teacher in the fivefold ministry. But that was one of the things that he, brought to the forefront for me because of the type of person that I am and my personality and the things that I like to do. So stepping full force into that and then moving forward. I don't know if he'll have me go back into coaching just yet. I'm still trying to figure that piece out. Uh,
Okay.
but definitely being able to create products and that will help other women as they're, becoming unmuted, helping other women as they step forward into being able to either speak on stages or just tell their story.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Altovise, let me tell you, this was really very interesting tonight. I just want to say this. As we are moving through life and life situations, there is someone out there for everyone. You have to unmuzzle your mouth and not be muted so that you would get what it is that you need at the time that you need it. And so when I realized who you were and what you do, it made me realize that it's okay for me to be who God has called me to be. As I said before, I am someone in ministry doing business. And so my first approach is always the God approach. How am I going to deal with this situation through the foundation of Jesus Christ? And he was a teacher.
Yeah.
He was a teacher, rabbi. And so it's okay as you enter into this place of being an intercessor to explore the things of being a teacher. Because guess what? Through your 23 books, that's what you've been doing, teaching.
Exactly.
Teaching and helping people to find themselves and set goals. So, what would you like to say to our audience tonight before we wrap up tonight? Is there something that is on your heart that you want to share?
Yes. So unmuted comes from the scripture Daniel 6:3.
Ooh.
Because after Daniel had become unmuted, meaning he stood on business when it came to his relationship with God, he stood on business on when it came to his prayer life. Is verse 3 says, then this Daniel was preferred above the presidents and princes because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king thought to set him over the whole realm. And so becoming unmuted puts you in a position that no man can change because you've been unmuted for God. And so that opens up opportunities for you. So as you're moving forward in whatever it is that is your purpose for 2025, whatever it is your purpose for this second quarter, whatever it is your purpose for life, make sure that you're doing it according to that plan that God placed on the inside of you before he formed you in your mother's womb, Jeremiah 29:11. So
Of course, 29 and 11, 911. Come
mhm.
on. Listen. Hi, Ishmael. I see you there. Thank you so much for joining us at Around the Table this evening. I am Vision Coach Alicia, and I help women to really have a God's vision for their business and help them to overcome obstacles that will stop them from the business that God has called them to by showing them how to start. START. Simply take another risk today. That's all you have to do. Take another risk because you've taken so many risks before in life, but this time put God in the forefront of your risk. So listen, come on back next Friday night when I will have a other special guest with me. Altovise, thank you so much for being here with us this evening around the table. And listen, as my cousin Lorraine always says, have a great day today and a better one tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week. God bless.